You shouldn't be in this. If you're levering into something that's changing the world, a new structure for the world that can't be cheated, that is repriced, you've never lived in a global free market. It means you've lived in a control system. And I hate saying that, but that means...
Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and enabling post notifications for more content on crypto and digital assets. Check out our other videos and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your engagement helps with the YouTube algorithm and keeps the content coming. Thanks for your support. Enjoy the video.
Prices would fall forever. But that is massive, important considerations, because what that means is we've never lived in a global free market, because we consider inflation normal. But productivity is deflationary. Free market is deflation because we use things that give us more value. So, but we've never lived in a system that would allow that productivity.
Capital, I mean, the returns, it's not really going to put a dent in $36.5 trillion in U.S. government debt. So, I mean, talk to me a little bit about your concerns. We had new CPI numbers come out today. Obviously, they were a little bit higher than expected. We know the Fed might be going higher for longer here. There's even some mumbling about, possible rate cuts jumping up again. But where are we, in your opinion, here in terms of that fight?
Said 11%. The IRR of Bitcoin is 45% a year. If you take if you bought at the top of any cycle and held it for 4 years, your lowest IRR is 23%. What does that mean if you're making 11%? It means you're losing that money to Bitcoin. So you can just, every single person starting to realize that this isn't, and get a 45% IRR with a non-correlated asset that's risk-free from the existing system. Again, the only caveat I'd say is if it stays decentralized and secure. It's more decentralized, more secure 16 years after it started today, and every year it gets more decentralized and secure.
How hard is the actual idea to do something like this?
And then the citizens wonder what's going on. And what's going on is you can't deliver the services because the money's being debased. And so the citizens are getting poorer and poorer and getting worse, madder and madder at the city. And there is no fix from a system that's debasing currency. But if you put some in Bitcoin, then that cannot be debased. So that you shouldn't be in this. If you're levering into something that's changing the world, a new structure for the world that can't be cheated, that is repricing everything, and you're trading that, then you could get wiped out. Because and that's just an early evolution of an understanding of this, that fear and greed on both sides, as much security as you want to be able to do that, and it's completely it's auditable by nature, right? So if you simplify the question and you said this, if you lived in a world that was based on theft, right, where people just got to make up money at their whim, press a button, make up money, because you wouldn't, as a person, you wouldn't allow a deflationary spiral. You would not vote for all prices to collapse and the debt to collapse. What does that say, right? When you also know at the same time the free market is deflation and you use things that give you more value, it means you're voting for more manipulation, right? And so that's over years. Why would it change? Free markets are more productive. Why are they more productive? Because we have more ideas. It's our ideas that create that productivity. So when you have free markets of ideas and more productivity, those become, you don't have to enforce, you don't have to collude, you don't have to, as liquidity dries up in the world, that you either hit a deflationary spiral out of the existing system, which will require not 2008 type of money, not 2020 type of money. Right. Orders of magnitude more printing. In March of 2020, I think it dropped to $4,000. And then it skyrocketed as the liquidity it was being printed into.
Yeah. You were talking a little bit before we came to camera about how the market was all about Bitcoin, but we have picks and shovels now. We have companies that touch it.
Hold it in self-custody and be outside of the system. And it has a 45% IRR. So if you're investing in companies on top of that, and those companies are turning profitable and they're adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet each month,
Right.
you have venture capital returns on top of a venture capital asset. It's repricing the entire world. And so why would I sell that for a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Right. And so there isn't a price too high that I would move my piece of paper or that I'd keep my piece of paper. That is my functional currency as I think about it, as my store of value. And then you print more money to short gold. Essentially the paper derivatives on gold explode to hold the gold price down, or because it gets centralized, it gets repriced. Mm-hmm. So if you look throughout history, you know for sure gold doesn't stop this. It stops it for a time, but then it gets co-opted and it gets it's a better representation, a far better representation of the properties of what gold wanted to be, right. But we wouldn't allow it to be.
Right. Do you think that the U.S. could go back to that gold-based system as opposed to, the more of the digital reserve kind of style?
So the question is, by doing so, who do they empower? Mm-hmm. Because if you print it into that, machinations of trying to negotiate with that, who knows?
Well, there's a revaluement aspect there too, right? I mean, I think you got Judy Shelton talking about it, maybe revaluing our gold reserves in Fort Knox. Some would argue that there's some there. I mean, there's current talks about this whole, is there gold in Fort Knox? Why not an audit? Any thoughts to this?
Well, it's the same premise that you've never lived in a global free market. It means you've lived in a control system. And I hate saying that, but that means that control system has to centralize faster. As technology is supposed to give you more abundance, as AI is, because prices fall to the marginal cost of production. Mm-hmm. As AI moves faster and faster and merges with robots, the output of that, because we live in free markets where ideas flow generally and the productivity around the world flows to us from it, then there's only one choice, and it's Bitcoin. Now, that's going to impose a wholly different set of rules on the establishment and all of the establishment, because, and I mean, it's deflation. If they can say that then what creates inflation? Right? And it shouldn't be measured from zero. It should be measured from the productivity rate, which would be negative. So we know for sure what I just said is true, right? We know in that model, prices follow the marginal cost of production. Marginal cost of production.
Citing nuclear tensions, AI weaponization, climate risks. That's the most here. I mean, it's getting a little bit nervous. I told you that before coming to air, and you said it's only getting more chaotic. Talk to me about what that chaos means.
So I wrote my book 5 years ago, The Price of Tomorrow, describing exactly what the worst in us can't overcome it. It can't be cheated. So it's imposing this discipline. Well, most people are giving their energy to the system that's feeding off their energy. So they're trying to work harder and harder and harder in a system that's debasing. And I think there's some system where we're feeding the dishonest system. And we'll tell ourselves in the dishonest system, we'll know for sure that the free market is deflationary. And we'll price everything else in the inflationary, trying to make enough money to be able to beat the other guy in that system. So it's not, I'd like to say there is no they, it's we. And they feed off that fear, and they spend more time in that system. And they don't see that there's an alternative path that looks totally different.
Right. So no fear that with more Wall Street being involved in Bitcoin or,
There's a whole bunch of different ways that the U.S., and I think they're doing it. Cynthia Lamas is fantastic. There's a whole bunch of people that know the same thing that I know, that now we're in different senior roles in government and understand that this, and so will people try to cheat this again? Of course they will, because that's what people do. But we've never had a money that couldn't be cheated. Yeah. And so what would that mean? And what you just discussed on a chain split, it could mean a chain split at some time. And most of the existing world wouldn't even know that's happening. And it's happening at a crazy speed. But that would lead to a whole bunch of, what I would say is we are still so early.
Yeah.
Because most people don't understand kind of even the structural change that's happening. And then most people are still giving most of their energy volatility than your other assets.
Yeah. What do you think that the asset mix is there? I mean, the diversification of some people's portfolios have changed so rapidly over the years. I mean, if you're just entering the first time, are you buying a spot Bitcoin ETF? Are you going and buying, like, where do you get started?
Yeah, so I prefer people, they get started in this. Technology is not slowing down. That means that speed up of that exponential rate of technology is driving deflation at a faster rate. That productivity is that wave. People say we can pay back the debt with higher productivity. Mm-hmm. It's an oxymoron, right? Productivity is faster deflation, meaning you need to offset it with more Canada free market. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense that he would at least investigate Bitcoin instead of put his head in the sand and really learn what that would look like. I don't know where he'll be on the topic, right. But he wants freedom for Canadians and freedom for instead of a control structure that essentially tells